Cedric Gates. Thank you.
Hello, Derek.
Thanks for
Mahalo
coming.
for having me.
We were just talking outside. We don't have a green room, but in a green room of sorts. And I think we probably disagree on some things, which I like, which I appreciate. We're a little bit different stance on some things, but we didn't get to see all those things all the way through. You are currently a state representative from the YNI?
Yep, YNI Coast, District 45.
So that's Ko'olina to...
No, that's Makua, Makaha, and YNI.
Oh, I see. So it's
Yeah.
more at the state rep level, there's more like ahupua'as or whatever. It's
Correct.
more divided, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever the word would be, split up.
So the Senate seat that I'm now running for includes from Ko'olina to Makaha.
Okay.
Or Makua.
Okay.
Yeah.
How old are you? What year you grad?
So I'm 30 years old. I
You're
just
30?
turned 30 this year.
Yeah.
I graduated in 2010, but I'm actually class of 2011.
Yeah.
But I graduated early through Youth Build, Honolulu, which is an alternative learning program that pays you $25 a day to go to school. And it's an 8-month program, and I got in at 15 and a half. And so by the time I left was a 16. So it was cool having that experience.
I like that. I went to Campbell, and it for me, it just kind of wrecked my confidence because I wouldn't sit down, shut up, and walk a straight line. And they're like trying to kick me out. And you know, Campbell, these schools got real things going on. I was just a class clown. And it took me a while into adulthood before I realized, like, oh, no, I'm capable of achieving some big things, you know. But school didn't do that for me. So I think it's cool you went to an alternative school, you know, route. What did you do after school immediately? Because you're kind of young, yeah?
Yeah, so after school, I started working. So I had multiple jobs. I was a healthcare connector. That was when Obamacare was rolling out, and we had to re-enroll everybody into healthcare plans. So I did that, and then I worked at a clean and sober house for about a year. And then I started getting into politics. I started a nonprofit in 2011. So that was basically right after I graduated, and the nonprofit's called Active Hawaii.
Active Hawaii.
Yeah, and our goal was to get our community active and get everybody on the active high, because that was our abbreviation, Active Hawaii, Active High.
Okay.
And so it was trying to deter people from falling into the cracks and also trying to build community.
Yeah.
So we held kickball competitions, flag football, basketball, and then we'd incorporate something. Our goal was to make sure that there was something for everybody, from our kupuna to our kiki. And so for our kupuna, we'd have like container gardening classes, food seminars, things like that would bring us together, kupuna meals, to really have something that would draw them in, because they're the ones that got to bring the kids, right? If we have make something for them, it's more of an incentive for them to participate and bring their kids, who we were trying to reach the most.
Yeah. And you born and raised YNI?
Born and raised Makaha, yes.
Makaha,
Yeah, YNI
Which,
Makaha.
YNI Coast, yeah,
YNI Coast, yeah. 96792.
That's right. You told me that outside.
Yeah.
That's did you venture out? Because I know some kids in YNI, they hardly know about the rest of the island. Like for you, did you spend much time outside of YNI? Like my real estate, partner and I, we spoke at YNI Elementary earlier this year.
Oh,
and it was, man, there was this one teacher. I wish I could remember her name. She stuck out and she was powerful. Like she needs to be heard, seen, and celebrated in that community. She was so amazing. And but you know, the kids' mindsets, I could tell, you know, a little bit different than Miliani Malka kids or whatever. And some of them maybe hadn't had as much exposure. Was that the case for you? Did you get out much or?
No, for sure. The furthest we went was Pearl Ridge.
For real?
Yeah,
that was
for
town
sure.
for
that
you
was
guys.
town, yeah. Because we would catch the bus. That was the thing. So, we riding the 40. That's a 2-hour ride because you got to go through Pearl Ridge. Then you got Waipahu, Kapolei, Nanakuli Waianae Makaha. And so that ride was like a journey in itself. And so we would sparingly go out, but that was like fresh gear for the new year. It was like when we got some shopping money during tax season, we get to go out, splurge a little bit. But other than that, yeah. And then when I went to Youth Build, Honolulu, it was in Kalihi, the program. So I had to catch the C at 5 a.m. to go to town to be there by 7:30. But that was, again, $25 a day. They give you a bus pass every month. So you free transportation, no excuses. And you're able to get there. And I usually sleep on the bus. And then I had a couple people from the West Side that, of course, we clicked up because we were in the program together that kind of keep each other accountable. Like, hey, I'm going to meet you at the bus stop this time, da-da-da-da-da. So that was kind of my life for that early adolescent years.
Yeah. Where were the kids from mostly? Were they from
all over,
or just all over?
All over. So Kalihi, Waipahu, Eva, everywhere. Base Pro City, and so that was cool too because you get connects now, right? In these different ahupua'as, and you can hey, I'm in your head. What you doing? Da 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 da. So that was nice in that sense to broaden my network in that way, and at a young age to know all these different people in these different pockets.
Right on. Well, you said that you put it together outside. You're like, oh, you're the guy with the Y&I video on the real estate thing.
Yep.
And people either notice me from that or they think I'm BJ Penn. But people come up to me and they're like, I was just on Big Island and this guy kept staring at me.
After you said it, I can't unsee it, bro.
This guy was staring at me and I was not getting mad, but I was just like, oh, he's from the mainland. He must not know that staring is bad or something. And then after a while, he came up to me. He's like, bro, I'm sorry I was staring at you. I thought you were BJ Penn, but I realized you're too big, but you just look like him. I was like, thanks, dude.
Yeah, that's so funny. I'm sitting with the governor right now.
Bro, around that time, it happened a lot.
Yeah.
Around that time, it happened a lot, yeah. I was thinking about waving a sign and wearing the shirt and act like I was him just for fun. But.
That's a good one. I like it. You fit the profile for sure.
I used to do jiu-jitsu too. So.
Oh, okay.
But anyways, you saw that video and I told you I was a little nervous to make it because I don't want to. I'm not going to make something if I have to be fake. And also, it could be easy for me to talk about Y&I, but my actual reverence and how I really feel not come through. Because I'll tell people, Y&I is a place where if you want that smoke, you want problems, you could find it. But it's also the place probably most likely where, if you cool and they can see your respect and you happen to be, at the beach and they're going to say, hey, come make a plate. Mm-hmm. Hey, we barbecue, come make a plate to feed your kids. Your kid's hungry. I can tell I'm crying. You guys are going to leave. No need to leave. Come make a plate. Mm-hmm. And those people may or may not even know how they're going to pay mortgage next month or whatever. But that's just the pureness of Y&I, right? So I guess, how did I do in that video? But more importantly, what is Y&I? If people, this is called Podcast Hawaii. So if someone's not really from there, maybe they're from Kaneohe or Hawaii Kai or Ka'ava, they don't know why. What is it to you in your eyes? You grew up there. You repping Y&I at a political level. What is Y&I in Makaha and Nanakuli?
Yeah, I think it's one of the last strongholds of what it means to be a community in Hawaii. Given that we have such a influx of mainlanders and foreign folks buying up land and things like that, which we're trying to get under control at the state legislature level. Y&I is very rooted. So it's everybody's ohana, basically. I grew up there, so it's we may not be blood, but that's my brother for life, and that's the kind of relationships you develop growing up in Y&I. It's I know your mom, I know your dad, they know me. They, we came over to your house and we was hanging out all the time. Yeah. So I have a lot of fond memories of our community coming together as well. I know we talked about that outside, was our community gets active when it's time to get active.
Yeah, you need someone to activate. I mean, when funeral and political season, somebody's graduating, you're going to see signs.
Yep.
Let's all put this issue or this person up and give it attention now.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think what also makes our community special is that we have the largest population of Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islanders in anywhere in the state, probably besides Ni'iau, right? But in terms of people from Native Hawaiian backgrounds, we have them all. And they're all in different roles, which is special because having that Native Hawaiian perspective to help shape your community makes your community that much more powerful. And I think, what's special about Waianae and the Waianae Coast from Nanakuli to Makaha is that there's so much more lelos, right, of all of the history of our community. And it's such a rich history and all these epic people that have come out of our community. We are talking about Brada Is, right? We have, Makaha Sons. We have all these different hitters, right, that we created through the way we grew up as a community. And all of them are just representations of pockets of our community. And that's what, even for me, I try to be that for our community. I try to be a reflection of what our community looks like as well as what our community stands for. And I try to keep that independence when you end up going into the legislature and you have to work with 75 other legislators who are representing their communities and their needs. To keep the community of Waianae at the forefront of discussions, as well as to get the funding that our community needs to prosper is the most important thing for me. But getting back to your question about what it means to be from Waianae, I think the biggest thing is that we have so much aloha. Like, even for me, when I seen an uncle who was broken down in the middle of the road, like, I parked my car, got out, started pushing them and helping it. And that's everywhere. That's all the time. So if you ever in need of something, like you said, need a plate, you hungry, like, our community provides. And we're so giving in so many different ways, whether it's the aloha we give, or it's the food, or it's the respect, all of those things coming together, the culture. People love our community because of the different perspective they receive coming to Waianae.
Right.
So I love everything about it, and I will die there, and that's a guarantee.
Yeah, that's powerful. Waianae it's just a strong place. I have family that lives in Waianae. My cousin, grad from Waianae. Football games, Campbell and Waianae back in the day would be,
in
scraps,
the trenches.
Scraps. Yeah,
for sure. We have a rivalry. 100%. I mean, honestly, let's be real. Campbell be stealing some of our Waianae guys.
For real?
Some of my people.
I didn't know that.
I mean, I understand though. It's about opportunities, right? And that's what people are looking for.
St. Louis is the one, right?
St. Louis.
St. Louis, pretty much an all-star team from around the island. Well, they're not the dominant force that they were back in the day. Are they St. Louis football?
Oh, St. Louis. They did okay this year. Not too bad.
Yeah. But anyway,
Mililani Kahuku, the powerhouses right now.
Mililani wasn't, when I was so I graduated in 2002. Mililani wasn't this like football powerhouse back then.
Yeah.
But now,
it's recruited, man.
Beating Kahuku.
I know.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
I would say Kahuku's another one of those neighborhoods, yeah?
Yeah, Kahuku
Well,
for
you
sure.
talking about, like,
Rooted.
there's a few left, like rooted.
Yep.
Flight of flags high. People know each other. There's a history. Yeah, Kahuku's another one.
100%. And, that's why we kind of always had that strong, head-to-head when it came to Waianae Kahuku, right? It's because we're both strong-willed communities. And I think that's reflective in our sports when we challenge each other.
Yeah.
But, yes, for sure, back then it was pretty intense, the rivalries across the state, right? And across the island of Oahu.
For sure. I wrote down something while you were talking. You talked about outsiders, foreigners, stuff buying land. And there's been some talk about that. Actually, just this past week, a bill was proposed to prevent hedge funds from buying. So if they own more than 75 properties, there'll be a tax or they'll have to sell it. And, that gets into some like constitutional things like who should foreigners be allowed to buy land. I think most people would probably prefer for China not to buy our land, but then where do you stop? It's the slippery slope people are afraid of. So how do you stop? Because, you know, my real estate team, we have to reconcile that. We participate in real estate, and some of that's relocation real estate. So people from the mainland coming to buy and see country in your area. And on one hand, it's the most special to us when local people are coming up and buying and, you know, on the come up. But that's not always the case. And sometimes we're bringing doctors to our communities. Sometimes we're bringing people we really need to our island, you know. Yeah. And for the most part, other people we bring are good too. The people who end up coming to Hawaii through us are good. But I also understand, you know, if you have 100 homes, you draw a grid, and it's a zero-sum game, and a mainland person comes and buys this one, that's a local person that's either moving into with family or moving to Vegas, right? So I get both sides of the coin. My solution is more to affect mindset and the competitive nature of that Hawaiian community and entrepreneurship. You know, more like our mutual friend Charles. Like I asked him this question too, but it's like, how do you? I don't tend to like more rules, more taxation. That's just not the way I tend to want to solve my problems. I want to solve it through being better and more competitive in the economy. So there's some of these rules proposed, right? Like Brent and Awa proposed something to say 100% tax if you're from the mainland and you buy here. I get the sentiment, and my heart is where his heart is, but I don't think that's a good policy. There's another one, Bill 9 or 4 or 9, where if a home's vacant for more than half the year, you get issued a 3% tax each year. So $1 million assessed value, $30,000 if you let that home sit vacant for more than half the year. I get it, but also, what about, you know, Miss Nakamura in Pro City? She saved up her whole life to buy the second home next to her, and her husband, her son, gonna move home after he paroled the military. But he's 2 years before he moves home. And she don't, you know, like, she's not a bad person for having done that. You're going to issue her a $30,000 tax, which pretty much forces her to sell it just because she saved up and bought an investment. So, like, I tend to not be for these dominant, high tax, high rule authoritarian policies. But how do you stop people from coming outside and buying YNI without it being a communist move or whatever? Like, how do you do it?
So I don't know if you've seen the recent report. There's 35,000 vacant units on Oahu. And basically where we're at is we need 35,000 units to fill our Oahu residents in terms of getting them into a house. And so that's kind of where all of that has spurred from, that recent report saying these homes are just sitting and basically are investment properties for a lot of folks.
They're mostly condos, right? In town.
Yeah, there's condos.
I think they're mostly condos in town.
There's some single family homes as well in that mix. In terms of that breakdown, I have to go double check on it.
Yeah, I don't know either. I'm going by the eye test. When we go and do real estate around the island, I don't see 1 out of every 10 on a street vacant.
Right. So just in that sense, there is a need to incentivize these homes to be filled with potentially local people. And I think that's the sentiment from lawmakers. And when we were reviewing the report, that we need to do something to help get local people into these local homes. And right now, in terms of our property taxes, we have the lowest property taxes in the nation. And what happens is that it becomes a tax haven for everybody who wants to invest in real estate. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons we have the problems we have now. And it's a slippery slope because, like you said, Mrs. Nakamura, right? She's in that position, and we want to be mindful of that. But at the same time, we have to look at the majority and look at how do we benefit the majority. And I hear what you're saying in terms of authoritarianism. But in terms of finding solutions for the problems. That's what we're tasked with. So we're going to keep throwing stuff out there to try to figure it out. But I think one of the biggest things is that the city has to kind of bite the bullet and really look into the property taxes for these investment properties, because that's the only way you're going to deter people from putting all of their eggs in our Hawaii market basket.
But there's a HARPTA and a FERPTA withholding that disincentivizes people currently. And if they're ever going to exit that property, they're going to pay severely. And that's a big difference.
I hear you on that. One of the things that I think should happen is that we should have a grandfather clause where you would basically be grandfathered into the fixed rate that you currently have now, or whatever. If you're gonna
like California does that.
Yeah, or scale it, or you scale it up, whatever, a certain percentage, over a 10, 15, 20-year period, to try to just make it feasible and applicable to our local families. Because you're right, that's the biggest thing that is holding up a lot of solutions, is that we don't want to have a double-edged sword when it comes to trying to find the solution to this. And even when it came to Airbnbs, for example, I had a lot of local families, because I introduced bills to regulate Airbnbs and kind of be more strict on them, because if on my street that I grew up, Mo'ua Street in Makaha, like the whole ocean front is all Airbnbs. This used to be a very family-oriented community, but now it's just they're holding ragers right now. They're renting it out, and so these guys are abusing our community because they're taking up all the parking, they're making any kind, and the locals don't stand for that. So you end up having an uncle trying to fight somebody out there, which is not good for nobody. Yeah. Not saying he's right, but it's understandable, right, to be frustrated with the type of regulations that are in place that allows for these people to continue to do this. So that's been a very touchy subject for sure. In terms of Airbnbs, even that, we need to basically course correct on that front, because it becomes incentive for people to just buy these homes, and they're gonna make $10,000 a month from it, right? So like whatever taxes you put on it, whatever, it's the incentive to keep doing it, even though it's illegal potentially. It's worth it.
More than if you get an oceanfront home on, I know the street name. There's another street name that's just like a handful of homes, oceanfront Makaha. Upena, yeah. So if you get an oceanfront Upena and there's no minimum on the amount of days, way more than 10,000. But yeah, they could make their own HOA at Upena Street, right? They could enforce and hui and do that. So you talk about national versus state, or state versus local versus city versus Upena Street could activate and make their own HOA to prevent that if they wanted to.
Yeah, and I think the only thing that prevents a lot of that from happening is in terms of HOAs, people are afraid to pay those dues, right? And so any additional funding that they need to put towards regulation, I don't think there's a big push for that. Of course, if we have a community champion who wants to take that on and make that his kuleana or their kuleana, I think we could get somewhere. Finding that champion is probably the most difficult part about getting these substantial changes put into place. And then, for people like me, people are, why don't you do that? It's like, that's kind of out of my wheelhouse, but also you have to prioritize, right?
You can't do everything.
Yeah, you can't do everything.
Aloha, everyone. This is Derek Okahashi, host of Podcast Hawaii. Thank you for listening. I hope you're enjoying the show. I have two things to ask. Whether you're listening to this on a streaming platform or on YouTube, please go comment and follow and do all the things to gas us up and keep us going. And in that comment, let me know who you'd like for me to have a conversation with next. Is there an interesting university professor, someone who owns a business, a controversial person, a politician, whoever you want to see on this show, please let me know in the comment section of whatever platform you're on. Also, I am a real estate agent and a real estate team leader. My small team, Core Team Hawaii, is one of the top real estate teams in all of Hawaii. So if you have anything in real estate, if you have any need at all in real estate, please think of Core Team Hawaii first. Go to coreteamhawaii.com. The link will be in the description of all of these shows moving forward. Book a call with me. Let's get you taken care of in real estate. Back to the show. Well, I think as we talked outside and as we talk now, I think I'm probably a little more. I'm a little more Texas than you. You know, I'm a little more leave me alone. Don't tell me about any rules. I also am not burdened with trying to solve and affect some of these issues. Mindset has been huge for me, and I used to hear about the like Oprah and the secret, and if you believe it, you'll have it. And I'm sort of a pessimist. I'm like, that's all BS. I read this book that talks about the reticular activating system in your head. If I buy one white Tacoma, well, that's a bad example because half of Hawaii is already white Tacomas. If I buy a red Camry, you'd be like, bro, I never even seen one red Camry, and then you're gonna start seeing it, right? And that's the reticular activating system. When in my business and entrepreneurship, as I started to write it down and say I would never lie to myself. I would never go, I can achieve this. I'd be like, I don't even believe it, but I can go a little bit. And when I'd write it down, it somehow opened doors for me. And when I spoke at YNI Elementary and I saw the mindsets, like, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to do? The kids didn't have a model or believe like the one kid's like, I'm going to work at Burger King just like my dad. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm not disparaging. But I could tell they didn't have like a model for higher earnings or like bigger visions, some of these kids. And rather than introduce rules for me, I would want to take part in, a mindset academy, a PSI of sorts, led by Charles Hewlin, or, so just shift the mind of being more competitive in this economy. I don't think that, and again, there might be some Hawaiians out there, shut up, you know what you're talking about. So please, forgive me. I'm just trying to have a conversation, but I don't think Bernice Paul Bishop was like, let's set it up so we don't have to compete. Let's set it up so it's regulated so it can be easy. I think she was like, we're going to have to grind and get competitive in this world. We're going to get very literate, very, hardworking. And I think that was the vision, not let's make more leasehold homes that don't appreciate but are given out for cheaper prices. When you see those situations, a big community of leasehold or a government subsidized community or whatever, it's not usually like, oh yeah, we got something for free, so everything will be cherry. We're going to spend extra hours in the rose garden. It usually doesn't work out that way because I think it did nothing for the mindset. So I'm not a big fan of rules. I'm more a big fan of mindset. I'm not a big fan of taxes. I rather support mindset, Mm-hmm. And, so how can that happen in YNI and in Hawaii? Mm-hmm. And like as a state, how can we be the most competitive or more competitive?
Yeah, we have the rap of being way behind the times.
Island culture is chill, right? Sorry to interrupt.
We
pride, be humble, be chill.
Right.
And that's how you get accepted.
Yeah.
But that's maybe not how you buy that investment or how you write the better offer than that mainland guy trying to buy the house,
Yeah. So along those same lines, in terms of competitiveness, one of the things that I really believe we need to do is modernize everything. Everything that we can modernize as government, as business, as people, because what that does is show us the possibilities that exist for our communities, and we can utilize a lot of good models from other places and implement it with our touch and spin on it that will serve our community's best interests. And that's something that, I'm looking at doing in everything in terms of streamlining processes. Like DPP, I
was just going to make a joke. Can we modernize DPP?
Yeah. So exactly, like, because we didn't modernize DPP 20 years ago, we're paying for it today. We're paying for it today with the archaic systems that we have in place. And that holds up innovation. That basically deters people from doing business, and it ends up hurting our economy because all of the different projects that you could be getting paid for if DPP just got their act together.
More jobs being created.
Jobs being created, and just less stress. You know how many people come up to me so stressed about DPP, and I'm on the state side, so I'm not under the city, which does deal with Department of Planning and Permitting, and I can't necessarily affect the change on that grand scale at the department because it's a separation of governments. But, you know, I even floated the idea of taking it out of the city and putting it into the state so that we could do a modernization program, front the bill, because the state has more money than the counties do, if that's the issue in terms of getting this process started. You know, looking at ways to just be more adaptable to change. And because there's all this red tape that's stopping people from being the best versions of the business that they have, or, you know, the house that they dreamed of, all of these different things contribute to a lot of problems that we have in our community. And so even in terms of getting people into housing, if you take longer to build housing, how much more people are you not helping because it's taking forever? And now, you know, even when it comes to our houseless situation, you know, that's one of the big things that we're looking at too, like trying to remove barriers to get people off their beaches and into actual permanent units. Yeah. Because a lot of times, even in that sense, it's like Band-Aid solutions. And we don't need Band-Aid solutions. We need the pendulum to swing in a different direction that will give us all of these different new possibilities. And that's what I'm excited about. I was elected as the youngest state representative in the Hawaii State House at 23.
Wow.
And so when I got in, that was my mindset. It's like, we need to do things differently. Everything that I'm getting reports back from the community is that government's not serving the people. And we have to figure out, how do you...
Do governments ever? Sorry to...
Yeah.
Do they ever serve the people?
You know...
Governments and I was in the Coast Guard, end of the fiscal year. Mm-hmm. Hey, we got to buy new boots. We got to buy a new table. I'm like, bro, we just bought this table last year. Yeah, but if we don't spend it, we'll lose it. We need to justify the budget for next year. I didn't know that I was better suited to be a businessman because I'm talking back to my superiors. That's ridiculous. There should be an incentive if we don't spend this money. You should get like bonus, or somebody should get one senator. I don't know. Why we got to spend the money? Like, that's just how it works. I've seen government's inefficiency firsthand, so that's why I like the idea of less of it. Like government, for me, is an inefficient charity. My heartthrob wants to give $1 to help the person. I don't think that government is a good filter to do it. So imagine if DPP was private. Like, you know what DPP being slow is good for? Is good for if I want to have to get paid, if I want to get a bribe. Because otherwise, if it was fast, you'd have no reason to bribe me, right? If it was efficient, I would have no leverage to receive the bribe. But in private industry, where you have to turn $1 into $2, you can't be that inefficient. Mm-hmm. Only in government can you be that inefficient. Yeah. So I know that's a challenging thing to say to you who, you know, is government, but to build more government, to more rules, more tax, is that going to eventually help Hawaii, or why? Or should maybe we have less of those rules? Instead of bring it to the state, somehow support privatization or bring in some private people to help get DPP caught up. But I heard there's a thing where either a city or state, they cannot do that, right? They can't bring in outside people to facilitate things in the government because there was some rule made.
Collective bargaining agreements. So those are basically unions that represent these workers in these public spaces like DPP or Department of Parks and Rec, or, you know, the refuge facilities and convenience centers.
So if they're backed up, 7,000 permits, they cannot say, hey, we're going to do a 9-month contract, get these things caught up. They're not even allowed to do that, right?
Well, there's probably some ways to work around it. Will it be very unpopular to the union members that are represented by these? Yeah, more than likely.
Yeah, I'm sure there will be.
But, you know, the reality is that we have to modernize. It's just so necessary. We have AI, we have ChatGPT, we have all these different applications that we can use and bring in to really streamline the processes and make everybody's life that much easier. I think that there's so much effort in going after people rather than doing the job. And you talk to, I'm just saying what I'm hearing from community. They're like, as soon as you mess up on something or you do some unpermitted work, they're right there on your butt telling you can't do the work.
They're quick for that, huh?
Yeah,
They're quick.
but when it comes to approving your permit that you should be able to get within a reasonable time, they're taking a year to 2 years. I have people waiting, so I think over a year and a half for a rock wall permit.
Yeah.
So that's just ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
And so also those kind of things improve safety for those families who are, paranoid maybe about where they're at, or just all of these different components that we have to consider. But getting back to your point about government, I think government should focus on core services like trash pickups, like roads, like schools, and DPP, all of those things. Those need to be turboed. We need to put a battery pack in those bunnies and let them go, because that's really where all of the holdup is. It's like people are complaining because the roads is crappy. People are complaining because their parks are not up to par, and you have all of these different things that matter to people, but somewhat get overlooked in terms of the grand scale of things. And those investments are what the people want with their money to go to, right?
Yeah.
When you talk about a school that your kid's going to, you want your tax dollars to go in and give that kid some AC during school time.
Bro, I went to Campbell with no AC.
Yes.
Does Waianae have AC in the
Yeah,
school?
so pretty much all the schools, there may be a couple classrooms that may not have, but we really invested into cooling our schools. It was a cool school initiative.
Yeah.
And for me, I've used my own testimonial, right? Like I was in that Waianae High School classroom where it was super hot and unpleasant, and you can't focus on learning because you're just like, I can't even think right now. I'm sweating my butt off. So that's again, trying to change the actual experience for people in those settings. That's what matters to me. I think that's what we got to invest in the most, is making sure that child has that opportunity or that vision, like you mentioned, for that greater opportunity that they may not see now because they're not being exposed to it, or they're not getting mentored by good role models in the community or their parents, and they fall through the crack and they end up wanting to work at Burger King. But I think for me, I worked at Wendy's, right? So I come from humble beginnings.
I worked at McDonald's.
I come from humble beginnings, working at Kunia Wendy's, catching the bus. That was during my time going to school. So I had my school income, and then I had my Wendy's income supporting me. And I was balling once I bought my car for $600.
Oh,
1993 Toyota Camry, all white.
Oh, I had an 88 Corolla. And I'm a little older than you, so kind of same thing.
Yeah. So that was my first car, bought it off of Wendy's and Youth Build money. And that's also just another opportunity I was given, right? To be able to have that education while getting paid. And I think in terms of I know our scores in terms of our schooling has been dropping. One of those ways we could definitely incentivize it is having these opportunities for these kids to work at school, whether it's you're in a culinary program, a marine science learning where you can grow ogle, or you're in Sea Rider Productions where you're doing shooting videos. You know what I mean? All of these different things can be avenues for revenue for our kids, and also show them, hey, this is how you run a business. This is how much you can get paid for shooting my town hall, right? Or catering my town hall. It's all of these different mindsets you're talking about that needs to be shifted, because once you expose them to it and they see it for themselves and they recognize the opportunity, that's when you can make that decision on your own and say, okay, this is something I want to go, or there's maybe different opportunities that may be enticing that I'm looking at now.
Yeah, I would like to see some kind of, I'm not there yet. I kind of started late in this wealth building journey and stuff, but I want to, my goal is to have an academy for maybe 16 to 22-year-olds, and parents can come but they're not allowed to talk. Parents can come, but not allowed to talk, and just giving people a different vision other than what I was provided. And curriculum would involve Rich Dad Poor Dad. Would involve bringing in people like Charles, or just. And it's not that they have to be an entrepreneur, but maybe they're an employee who knows how to manage money better and can buy, houses, or just buy their first house. There's not to be 10 houses, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or own a business, Some of my most successful friend in my friend group started a painting company, and just he's a brother, he's an Ever Beach guy, and it's a painting company, but he knows how to lead men. He knows how to manage books and just give people more vision, I think I didn't have that. But one thing I did have when I grew up pretty poor, and I only moved to Hawaii mid-childhood. I started coming when I was like 10. I stayed when I was 12. My stepmom was a nurse. I had never heard of a college degree, brah. And she drank water instead of soda and sugar water. I was like, might as well have been the Rockefellers for all I knew. But just seeing that little shift, oh, you could be a nurse? It is a big deal at 12 years old. And I don't know. Maybe one day we can work on that academy together.
Yeah. So one of the things I'm starting up in light of all the shootings that have happened and the violence in our community, we're trying to create a Big Brothers Big Sister program.
Okay.
Specifically for Y&I. Because like I said, if I didn't have the mentors I had in my life, I don't think I would be here in front of you right now.
Yeah.
And that's how much of an impact those mentors had, whether it was my former elementary principal or my vice principal, Lily Kabinatan, all these different people that invested in me and seen a future in me and kind of just helped me. Hey, maybe you should do this. Hey, go over here, go do that. And I'm like, why am I going to do it? And then it's just like, okay, I'll go because you want me to go, but because you're mentoring me and you see something I might not even see in myself.
Yeah.
And it was crazy because the person that told me to run was Glenn Keela. He was my former principal at Kamaile Elementary.
Okay.
But we just reconnected through my nonprofit. And through my nonprofit, that's when I started advocating for all of the needs of our city parks and, all our school and breakfast lunch programs at the high school and our DOE public schools. And basically, he was like, we need you to step up to the plate. And I couldn't believe it. I was like,
That's at 20-something years old?
No, that was at 19, 18.
Wow.
He was like, you got to run now. I was like, I don't think I'm ready. And he's like, no, you got to go now because it's going to get you ready. And I was like, what? Okay. And I ran. I lost. But that year, it was wild because my dad, it was me, Uncle Glenn, and my dad in Uncle Glenn's house. And he asked me to bring my dad to come meet with him. And that was weird. And then that's when he told me, hey, I need you to run. And basically needed my dad's approval to make that jump. And my dad's like, I got you, run for it. And literally pulled my papers on a Friday. Pulled papers to run for office after I went home, thought about it, prayed about it. And then I was like, okay, I'm going. Pulled papers on Friday. On Sunday, my dad ended up passing away.
What?
So it was like, what? That's my biggest supporter. How the heck am I gonna think and even process all of this and also run a damn election? And on top of that my mom already passed. So that was my last parent. And it was tough. So after that, it was like, okay, you just gotta run because my dad wanted me to run. He gave me his approval. And, we lost that race, but it was never a loss. It's a lesson. And that was a thought that came from my dad. He always told me that. And so when I lost, I was like, okay, I'm taking this as a lesson. What did I not do right? Everything I didn't do right, I know what I got to do next time. And then when I ran in 2016, after, soul searching and dealing with life and working for different people in government, we ran and we defeated and unseated the only elected official in that election cycle.
Wow.
So, because back then it was like once you're in, you're in. No, you
Forever.
can forever. So
it's still probably too much like that, but
Yeah.
but back then was
100%. Yeah. Like I said, out of 51, only one took a L.
Wow.
And in that election, so I was front page news. Everything, everybody wanted to interview me. How did you do it? How did you do it? It was within a 10% too. I beat her by 10%.
How did you? What do you think?
I worked my butt off, man. And
Pounding the pavement, speaking to people in the community?
Yes, bro. So I go to Miami Beach, all those parties, come through, give them some gifts. Here you go. Hey, can't reveal all my secrets. I got competitors out there.
Yeah, don't tell them.
But I just really worked my butt off. That's all I can say. We went door to door every day. I lost so much weight, and I'm about to do it again. I can't wait for that. I packed on for the winter, but
Me too.
yeah, we're gonna work our butt off. And basically, when I meet people, man, I win 9 out of 10 people over when I talk to them because I'm just real with them. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I'm gonna tell you exactly why things haven't changed. I'll tell you exactly what needs to happen for it to change. I'll tell you who's in the way of that change. I'll tell you all of the things you need to know so that you're informed of why things are the way they are. And then I'll tell you what I'm doing to help change that and create that change. But I also remind people I'm one of 76 legislators in both the House and the Senate. So you have to work and get approvals by all these people to even get your idea to the finish line. Yeah. And so if you don't have relationships, and that's what politics is really about, is relationship with your community, relationship with your colleagues, relationship with the governor, relationship with the mayor. All of these things is crucial for you to be successful in what you do. Because, for example, I pass a bill, whatever the bill may be, I pass money to fund my Waiana High School football field. Okay. After I passed that funding at $6.5 million, it kept doubling in cost because inflation, whatever. I still need the governor and the budget director for the state and under the governor's administration to release that money. And then after they release that money has to go to a contract that's get bidded on. Mm-hmm. And then after that, they got to go through DPP permits. So check this out. My project has been fully funded. Everything's good to go. And we're still waiting for DPP permits, man. I'm so sad right now because it's just like, it's really diminishing the return on investment. Because, for example, like having to keep fund this thing while we're waiting for permits, like that can be other capital I invest in Farrington Highway. That could be money I could be investing in our other schools. And when it's held up, it's like
money's dead.
It's dead money. Dead exactly. Money. Yeah. So now that's like really the thing that I'm trying to push now is like, okay, if this is how it's going to be, the state should have its own permitting process for state projects. So that way we don't rely on a city that's DPP is broken. Yeah. I'm not going to be shy about it. DPP is broken. Everybody knows it. We need to do better.
Disrupt DPP. I'll make the t-shirt.
Yeah. Well, it's also difficult because of the federal indictments that happen with DPP, right?
Bro, so still get people.
Everybody's walking on eggshells over there, and it's also diminishing the community's application of it.
What about because I'm a real estate guy. They're in a utopia. Everyone would work hard. Everyone would qualify for a mortgage. The average and middle class would be strong and all these things, right? That's utopia. But fact of the matter is sometimes you need investors to come in, take a tear down house, make something beautiful out of it, and reintroduce it back into the economy, into the community. Now, hopefully a local person buys that. Some investors will actually help out, sell for a little bit less so that they can get it to a local person. Not all are cut the same. Solid guy I think of is a guy named Daniel Kong. He has a podcast too, but if maybe, I don't know if he's done that, but maybe he has sold one for a little bit under market to get it to a local family. And if they kind of get permits, they're not going to go bring their hundreds of thousands of dollars or raise $1 million to do it or whatever, because like you said, when you have hard money loans out and private money with interest accruing and you bought supplies and all these things and you kind of get your permit going or closed or it's all done, you can't get the permit closed, which adversely affects your ability to sell it. then they're just not going to come in and invest.
Mm-hmm.
And so inefficiency kills.
Yeah.
And all of this. And governments tend to be inefficient.
Yeah.
So
100%. And, I think that's why I'm here. I'm trying to change that. I really believe that it's going to take people like me, younger folks who have that energy, that drive, that conviction to see it through, and also have the longevity to be there long enough to see the change through, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's where, kicking people out of office, because you're frustrated, may not always be in the best interest of the community. Because sometimes you have to. For me, I'm going on 8 years, right? And in that 8 years, 4 of them I've been the chairman of committees, which is power. And for me, it's always been about using that power and that clout to try to benefit our community's best interests. And that's funding, that's being able to pass bills and be effective. So if you have people like me in there pushing the messaging that things need to change and also be in a position of power, that really is powerful, because that will put these guys who also have power in check and say, hey, you got to answer the call of duty. You got to show up and figure out these solutions. And we have a lot of examples of that. So one of my bills that I passed was called Ohana Zones, and that's directly dealing with our houseless community. Auntie Twinkle is a friend of mine. Worked with her, and
would she come on here?
She would probably come on here. Maybe I can give her a call.
I would love to talk with her.
I will follow up on that after this.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, so she, I was the neighborhood board chair for Waianae at the time when David Ige and his administration came down to the boat harbor and basically was like, we're going to come kick you guys out. And this was during a time where houselessness was obviously apparent in all of the communities.
Yeah.
But my whole thing was like, okay, what's the plan? What's the plan? We're going to kick them out. They're going to feel good about it. Maybe even clear the area up. Okay, that's cool. But then what happens to all these people? They're just going to go into Ulavehi. They're going to move into all of these different cracks in our hood.
Yeah. And
now they're going to be a real nuisance to the neighbors that live there right now at the Waianae Harbor. Of course, that's not the ideal location to have them. It's adjacent to all the schools. And of course, we want to have good examples for our community to be and to promote. So that was an issue. But in terms of how do we really actually address the issue rather than a Band-Aid solution, right? Because a Band-Aid was sweep them out and just say we did something.
But a Band-Aid and a band-in.
Yeah,
right?
and a band-in, exactly.
Leave, yeah.
And then in terms of the service providers, they don't have a place they can come to offer those services and outreach with those guys that are trying to get into housing. So now you have these people looking at all these different places trying to find, and that's another inefficiency, right? Because if you have everybody one place, you can come bring services to that one space and service all 250 people in that area one time. And so anyways, 2016 happens. That's the year I'm running for office too. I stand up to David Ige and his administration saying, no, I don't support you guys doing this. Come up with a plan. We ended up connecting him and Twinkle with Uncle Buffalo, and they ended up meeting, and they ended up coming up with a compromise that, okay, we'll stay here, but we have to find a solution. And the solution was to basically create a new model of how we do development for our houseless population. And that bill was my Ohana Zone bill that was modeled after Auntie Twinkle's Village, basically allowing for how they're living, but in a structured environment where they can actually build units that will be secure and up to par. So using modular units, right? Using these prefabs units to be able to place people in for low cost, because that's the other aspect of it. It's like, okay, how much do we spend on ER, on all the different services, whether it's the trash cleanups when we go to the beach and we spending over $100,000 to clean up a beach.
Yeah.
Like all of those monies that we spend on that, that's all Band-Aid. Again, we got to go into the heart and the root causes of it. And so basically the moral of the story is we ended up passing a bill, and this is why people are like, Governor Green, one of the reasons why I have a good relationship with Governor Green was he was one of a few people who stood by my side when I tried to pass this Ohana Zone bill. Because everybody was like, this is a bad idea, setting precedent to let these guys get their way. You know, they've been squatting over there. Shame on you, Cedric, da-da-da-da. So I was having a lot of that going on. But he was the chair of health. And basically the bill needed to go through the health committee and pass out to basically move it. And so him and the other chairs was the reason why we were able to get the bill passed. And then as soon as it passed, everybody's using it in their newsletters. Everybody's touting it as
good, huh?
Yeah, but it's funny because it's like, wait, everybody was against this. You know, all my colleagues were saying this is a terrible idea. But when they seen the light and seen that they also have houseless folks that need help in their own communities.
Every community
it's just
on
not
Oahu.
Waianae, right? And how that can help with their issues. Then people started buying in, and now this model is being used with the Wayne Kurisu project on Nimitz.
That's the one when you coming on right onto Nimitz from H1. It's on the right.
On the right-hand side.
Yeah, there's a police officer I know who's like knows him very well and told me about that guy. Yeah,
So-
I would love to speak to him too.
Yeah. So I also met with him, and we're working on another project to do singles, because a lot of the units that are being built are for families.
Yeah.
And so you have this population of single homeless people who don't have access to actual housing because
Right.
the focus is on families.
Yeah.
So Dwayne wants to really work on that and do something for the West Side. So I've got to circle back around with him
that's
to try to
cool.
get that started. But again, that's why I'm excited, because like I've actually done stuff that created change and seen it through and know what's possible now. It's like things don't always have to be this way.
Yeah.
We can have a better life, a better world if people become invested in community. Because that's the other thing. It's like, okay, yes, I'm the politician, I'm the representative for the community, but at the same time, our community is our community, and our community is made up of 25,000 individuals.
Right.
So to have one person on the front line at all times going hard in the pain, that's basically me,
Yeah.
right? And then, but where's everybody else, right? And I'm not calling people out. I'm just saying that's the reality. You got to walk the talk. Like, wouldn't it be beautiful if, my biggest thing is empowering people, right? Like, that's where my angle is. It's not always government top heavy pushing it. Like, we got to empower community, empower them to have resources in their communities, or empower them to help change the law, right? Okay, that's how you feel. All right, come to the Capitol.
and
I'll
vote.
draw up the law, and we can introduce it. You come testify. Make sure you're there. Call your friends. Call your aunties. Make sure they come to the Capitol. Because when we hear the voices of our community, I know a lot of people think, politicians never listen. It's like, honestly, I've been in the legislature for 8 years. The amount of people showing up is less and less and less and less every year.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you create change if you're not going to show up? Given that everybody got 2 jobs now, even me, it's understandable why people don't always participate. But at the same time, we got to find time, right? We have to figure out how do we, even if it's sending it on a email or,
Make a YouTube video.
make a YouTube video to promote whatever. Those are the little things that are going to count. And I think that there's a sentiment within the community that they don't matter.
Right.
And like you said, if it's a mindset, bro, if you saying you don't matter, you creating your own universe in that sense
True.
too.
That's
You're
what you
saying
live in,
I
man.
don't matter. So now everything you do doesn't matter. But in reality, you do matter. And that if you start participating, you start engaging, even if you call me up, like I give people my cell phone all the time, right? And just, hey, call me up. You got a problem? Call me up and I'll walk you through whatever we need to get through. And having that level of connection with community allows me to do my job better, because I know for a fact that this is what's happening given those conversations I'm having in the community with the different leaders and people that live there.
Yeah, Waianae is definitely a place with leaders. You gotta, there's a community, right? Like you said, with figureheads. That's an interesting thing about neighborhoods like Kahuku, Waianae, Waimanalo stuff too. There's these leaders. Well, you got to go and I got to go. But I want to ask you a question. We'll keep it brief, and then I just want to give you like a platform to, I ask most people on here, what would you say to Hawaii? What's a message you want to leave Hawaii with? But before that, my whole I want to increase hustle mindset, entrepreneur, my fear of that is Hawaii, we're an island. We're very Asian influenced, very Hawaiian. Yeah. It's be humble, respect. Texas is freedom, freedom, and New York is hustle, grind. You can make it here, you can make it anywhere. We talk about humility and respect. Can you increase the hustle and the freedoms and not lose the humility and respect? Because New York is not as humble and respectful as us. Texas, Southern charm is a thing, and it's special too. But, it's everybody not shocking each other like over here. Yeah. Can you have both? I don't know the answer, so it's a true question. Can you make everybody a Charles Hewlin or, and increase that hustle, but still have aloha, still keep it? Yeah. I think you're going to lose some no matter what. I think if everyone gets into that grind, you're going to lose some. I just hope you can keep most, and then the juice will be worth the squeeze.
To answer that question, I think that, again, goes back to mindset. For me, I truly believe that we can have win-win situations. It doesn't have to be a win-lose. And one of the things that I would say would help us achieve what you're saying of that balance is everyone living that aloha spirit law, right? To keep that aloha spirit alive in everything we do. And that's something I strongly believe has got me here, is everything I do is with aloha, good intentions, right? Even if I make a mistake, it wasn't a malicious mistake. It wasn't, I was trying to come after you. It was really about, that's what I believe was the right choice. And that's the decision I made. I not make every right decision, every right call. That's like refs, right? It's hard to make every single right call in this game of life and game of politics. But if those decisions are always based and rooted in community and aloha, I think that's where you'll see a lot of success. One of the great things that we've helped start in my community is the Waianae Economic Development Council. And that's to get everybody up on game to basically be more business savvy and basically working with the SBA, working with all these different people.
They have it. You enter Nanakuli and they get the food tents and people the West Side has the hustle.
A hustle, 100%.
You just need to pour water on it, pour
and then in terms of making sure they're all up on game in terms of the paperwork side of it, because there's so much taxes, but also SBA loans, all these different opportunities you can tap into to make your business that much more successful. What I do on the side is I do marketing advertising. So I basically utilize everything I use for my campaign for businesses. Nice. So during COVID, we helped a lot of the local Waianae businesses get on Bite Squad, do all of these different things to basically modernize their system. That's why I strongly believe it. I live it too. It's okay, Auntie, you had a great hole in the wall, but now COVID's hitting, nobody's coming out. Here's how you're going to still eat, right? Yeah. And so that's basically the vision for government too. It's okay, these are the ways we got to get better so that the opportunities are still there and people can still eat. And that's, at the end of the day, where I think, going back to your question of balance, is that there's enough food to go around for everybody. Yeah. And I think that gets lost in translation. I think there's just a finite market for these opportunities, but trust me, there's so many pockets of places that people can make money. It's just who wants to put in the work, right? Who's going to get that dedication and hustle going so that they can get it started and then sustain it.
You can put in the work one way or another. You have 2-3 jobs, or you're going to work on your growth. One's going to happen if you want to make it here. Yeah. Thank you for your time. What's a few lines? So we put it on a minute. Okay. What's a few lines you would leave Hawaii with, whether that's the 17-year-old kid in Waianae, what am I going to do? Or the auntie, the uncle, what's the message for Hawaii?
Message for Hawaii is keep the aloha alive. I think that's the answer. to a lot of the problems that we have these days is that we're forgetting that aloha spirit in the actions that we make towards each other. And if we can bring that back, whether it's in school, whether it's in politics, whether it's in real estate, keeping that at the forefront of our minds when we act will create the Hawaii that we really want to see. Because I know it still exists. My community is full of aloha, but when you're on the freeway, when you're, waiting in line for something at DMV, like all of those different scenarios, the aloha spirit has to be in your heart. And I know it's frustrating, but I think really having that will leave a better impression for our young generation coming up. Like, we are the role model, so be a good role model too, especially for our uncles, aunties, brothers, sisters, cousins. We got to be good role models because the kids are growing up and doing what they see, not as what we tell them. So that whole line of do as what I say and not as what I do, that has to go out the window.
No,
Your
kids are too busy watching you. They can't hear you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, that's what I would say to our communities. Let's all step up to the plate. Let's all participate. Let's all engage and create the community and the Hawaii that we believe we should be.
Right on, bro. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Brother Derek.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
I'm glad we connected. Thank you.